It's titled The State of Detroit Public Schools. As we all know, the DPS school system has been going through a lot in the past year, actually. And the three of us just read an article that says by the end of April, the school system will run out of money to pay their teachers. So we're just going to get started. Sherelle, we'll start with you. What was your, first of all, what schools did you attend in the DPS school system, and what was your experiences like?
I attended Detroit School of Performing Arts in high school. I attended Macomb Elementary, that's on the east side of Detroit, and I believe those are the only DPS schools I attended. But while I was there, I bounced from Detroit Public Schools and then, out of the school district. So when I bounced, I realized that I really wasn't being as taught as much as I needed to be, because when I would go to a school outside of DPS, I would be so far behind and I wouldn't know what was going on. So my experiences in DPS at the time was doable for me because I didn't know what I was lacking until I had to go elsewhere. In high school, I believe that I was taught fairly. The teachers were very dedicated. They had way more funding to do things with the students. They were able to do extra, things that they needed to do in order for us to be successful. And attending DSA did help me because later I went to U of M in Dearborn and I graduated. So my experiences were okay. I think that anyone coming up prior to now had a better chance than they do now. So it was cool.
That's interesting that you said that. First of all, that was a perfect answer, but it's interesting that you said when you went to another school, you would be so far behind after leaving a DPS. So we're going to come back to you a little bit later. And Parrish, I'm not sure if you went to school did you go to Detroit Public Schools?
Yeah, so from K to 8th, I did not go to a DPS school. However, for high school, I graduated from Renaissance High School, which is a DPS school. So I got a little bit of experience with the charter school education and with public school education.
Okay, awesome. Now, how would you say that the two differed?
Well, seeing that I went to Renaissance, it wasn't like a typical like DPS school. So even though it was a DPS school, the education and the teachers and the different type of resources that we had were those that were comparable to like other top performing schools, because Renaissance is a top performing school. So my DPS experience is a little bit different. However, seeing that Renaissance isn't like a neighborhood school, like I had classmates from all over the city, but I still lived in the hood. I lived on 7 Mile and Greenfield, and most of the people that grew up on my street, they did not go to the same high school that I went to. And I have one friend in particular who we grew up together since birth up until now, and they went to not a regular DPS school, but like just like a standard DPS school. And I could tell that the education that I received from my DPS school, which was Renaissance, was different from the education that they received from their school, which was Henry Ford. And I knew that it was different because all throughout high school, we all had the same grades. We were getting good grades, 4.0s. We were at like the top of our class. But then when it came time for college, I was able to graduate and excel in college. However, he was not able to finish because his school didn't necessarily prepare him for the type of rigor that a college institution will expect from one of their students. So that's when I finally realized, like, man, something is going on. Even if we had the same grades in high school and we had the same education, why wasn't he able to excel in the same way that I was able to excel? So that's when I realized, like, man, something is going on within these DPS schools. If he wasn't able to do the same things that I was able to do, but we had the same grades, we had the same like ranking in class, we were getting the same education supposed to, but it just wasn't like equaling out to the same stuff.
Awesome answer. That's wild, two neighborhood schools and you're getting totally different educations.
Right.
So Parrish, with you being an educator now, what are you saying? Even though you work for a charter school,
right,
what are you still in the city? What has changed since you were in a Detroit public school?
So even though this is my 3rd year of teaching, like I've worked in all different types of schools. I worked in a public school, I've worked in a charter school, I've worked in the turnaround district. And the main thing that I'm noticing is that first off, those in charge of education might not necessarily have a educational background. Like there are people that are running charter schools and like running school districts whose background isn't from education. We have like business people trying to run schools, and that's why the schools are in the predicament that they are in, because the people in charge and making the big decisions aren't necessarily making the best choices for what's best for the clients. In a school, your client is students and children and families, but those choices aren't geared to those people. And one of the major things that I've noticed is that I don't believe that money is being allocated in the right places, because resources for some schools aren't as high as other schools from other districts and other cities. So first off, urban education just has a lot of many different issues, period. But I believe that those that are really invested for the work, for the lives of children, for the lives of bettering the state of urban education, the work can be done, but a lot of things need to be shifted.
I agree. Oh, I didn't know the mic was on. I agree. Awesome answer. So, Sherelle, I'm not sure if you are involved, like particularly with any Detroit Public Schools right now, but I know that you have a foundation called the Pure Heart Foundation, and you
Yes.
all are doing a school restoration project.
Yes.
Now, can you kind of elaborate on that project and what you all hope to do to help the school system?
Okay. Well, really briefly, Pure Heart Foundation is a youth development program, and we offer self-enrichment, character development, mentoring, and tutoring programs to children. And basically, what we do is we create effective programs that will help enhance children academically and socially. So we go into these schools and we provide these programs striving to help each student that we come across. We started this school restoration project because there is a tremendous need in, DPS. And the goal of it is to raise funding for these students. Right now, we're highlighting Spain Elementary, who Ellen donated 500,000 to. And so many people are reaching out to us saying, well, Spain just got 500K, won't you highlight another school in need, because so many schools need our help right now. And what they don't understand is that's only 500K. The Spain project is a $2 million project. So there's so much funding that needs to be gone into these schools. So what we're doing is we're fundraising on their behalf. And our next school we're highlighting is Marcus Garvey.
Awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And we will be helping out as well and donating. So we really
Okay.
believe in your vision and think that is awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. Jazz and Bree, I'm going to open it up if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask.
Sure. My one question for you both, whoever wants to answer first, what are some preconceived notions of Detroit Public Schools and the students of the DPS system, and what do you think can be done to change those preconceived notions?
Okay, well, I'll go first. So I began teaching not through like the traditional teacher's route. Like my background from college was not education. However, I became a teacher through a teacher preparation program, and through that program, I was introduced to like many different people from many different backgrounds. And when they found out that they were placed to work in Detroit, the main thing was safety. People didn't feel safe because of all of the things that they seen in the media about Detroit, of all the things that they seen about the youth of Detroit. And even though these people were in the program to become teachers, most of them even felt that the students were quote unquote unteachable because they were seen as thugs, or because like they come from areas who don't necessarily value education. And I think that's one of the biggest negative preconceived notions of the youth of Detroit and students of Detroit, is that we can't teach these kids based on their situation or based on their circumstance. And I personally know that that's not the case for sure, because for one, my philosophy is that any child can be taught. It's not that a child cannot be taught. It's the fact that you as a teacher, or you as a person that's trying to teach a child, you need to find out what is the best way for that child to learn. Because not all children are going to learn the same way. And you have to take the time to invest in the children, to get to know them, to get to know the things that they like, to get to know the places that they come from, in order to realize like why their mindset is the way that it is, why their behavior is the way that it is, why they may be seen as thugs, or why they may be seen as unteachable, in order to figure out what things you need to do in order to teach them. So I think that that is something that has to change in order for that preconceived notion to go away. And I also believe that people just need to not take everything that they hear from the media into account, because first off, we always hear about negative things about Detroit and about DPS and about students and about youth, but we never hear the positive things, and if we do, it's not on the same scale as we hear the negative things. So that's probably the biggest preconceived notion, is that students in Detroit are unteachable, but I definitely know for a fact that that is not the case, because the students in my school, in my class, they excel as just as they excel as just the same rate as students from any other district or in any other classroom that you might see in suburbia. So I definitely know that that's not the case.
Thank you. Sherelle, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, he touched a lot of great points that I was going to touch as well. But to piggyback off what he was saying, I believe that one of the main things that we have to realize is that people use education for everything, and I believe it's starting to hinder our teachers, because they're just pulling them from everywhere. As long as they have a degree or some type of education, they feel like as if they're qualified, and really they're not. It's so many things that teachers have to go through to be qualified for that. And I think one of the main things that we need to look at is passion, because everyone now aren't in good circumstances. You know, when we were coming up, things weren't as bad as they are now. So like he said, the students might need a little more attention, and you might have to do it a different way. So when you pull in these business degree holders and engineers that really don't have that passion for that child, you're really not going to be able to do anything effective. So I believe once we pull in people that really have a passion for what they're doing, things will get a lot better.
Awesome. So do you think that there's an extreme lack of passion, or when it comes to becoming a teacher, or do you think that's just no one wants to go that route anymore, or they only want to do it just for a moment? Where do you think we can find those passionate teachers?
I don't believe that they're not out there. I believe that a lot of teachers now are still very passionate, but it's like they're putting on so much of a huge responsibility trying to get to all the students, and that's just impossible. If half of the teacher body is passionate and then the other half isn't, it makes that other 50% so much, the pressure is, really on. So I don't think that they're not passionate, because they are, but it's a lot of people that come in this place of, business for it to be temporary. Oh, I could be an educator right now, then I'll move on. So they're looking at it as if, this is just my stepping stone, versus I need to really be effective while I'm here.
I have something to add to that as well. I definitely believe that there are a lot of people who are passionate about teaching, and there are also people who are teachers who are not as passionate. But I can honestly say that at the beginning of the school year, no matter if you're a person who's always going to be passionate, or if you're just in this for the 2-year blah 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 whatever, at the beginning of the school year, like the passion and the energy and the just like the vibe towards the school year is very, very high. But then throughout the school year, like things happen and like it just starts to dwindle and go down. And that passion, if it's not in you for the right reasons, then of course you're gonna come to like March, April, May, and just say, man, you know what, I'm just trying to get through the day. I don't care about the lesson. I don't care about this. I'm just trying to make it through the day. But I don't want to blame the people for that, because what a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things in schools happen behind the scenes that causes a teacher to not want to care so much. Like first off, just speaking from my experience, at the beginning of the school year, I started with 24 students. So that is a good number of students to have. Some people might see that as being too many students, or some people might see that it's not being enough students. However, for me, as this being my 3rd year, 24 students was perfect for me, because my first year I had 42 students. And 42 4th graders in one class, that's ridiculous. It's crazy. We was tripping over each other. I'm trying to teach and people in the back can't see. Like, it's just a lot of stuff going on. Then my 2nd year, I had 36. Now, that was better than 42. So with the 36, I thought that I was killing it. Like I got 36, I beasted it with 42. I got 36. That's cool. So then when I got my 3rd year and I only had 24 students, I was like, yeah, man, we about to be in here learning. They about to do this. They about to do that. I can't wait for all of these like cool things to happen. So for like the first 2 months of school, my class was great. I had 24. We came together as a family. We were all close. We didn't have arguments, like nothing like that. Then I think like maybe like the third or fourth month of school, one of the fourth grade teachers quit. So the school administration, you know, they tried to find a teacher for that class, but every teacher that they put in there, they just weren't doing the right things for those students to actually learn the way that they should learn. So the decision was made to split that class up in between the other fourth grade classes. So that means that the other fourth grade teacher, she got 13 new students, and then my classroom, we got 13 new students. So opposed to having 24, I now had 37. Now, with those 13 students, I didn't just get extra bodies in the classroom. You got extra bodies, you got extra personalities, you have extra learning styles, you have extra parents. Like, you just have all of these extra things that come into this one classroom. And people just think that it's so easy for the classroom just to be and function how it used to, but that's not the case. With 24, I knew who could work with who. How did she learn compared to how did he learn? Whose mom was going to answer the phone if I call home? Whose mom wasn't going to answer the phone if I call home? But then now I got these 13 new kids, and I had to learn and relearn 13 new things as if it was the first day of school. Now me, you know, just like being a trooper and just like having a passion to make sure that the black child is educated, I took on the challenge and I just tried to make it work. However, the other fourth grade teacher, she really wasn't in it for the same type of reason. So when she got those new 13 students, she was stressed, she was irritated, she was mad at the school, she was mad at the kids for something that like wasn't even in their control, and that caused her to quit. So then now we're in a place where this other fourth grade teacher just quit, split up the classroom. Now this other fourth grade teacher just quit, so they been having subs for however long. Now I'm the only like fourth grade teacher there because all of these things are happening, and I can't necessarily blame those teachers for quitting because just to be flat out honest, no teacher should have to deal with more than 30 kids in the classroom, honestly, because you got to grade those papers, you got to make those lesson plans for those kids, you got to have supplies for those kids, because believe it or not, kids don't come to school with school supplies these days. Like, they just don't. So it's a lot to being a teacher, and a lot of people don't realize that, and that's why some teachers don't seem as passionate, because they're tired, they're fed up, they're irritated, because nobody seems to value the work that a teacher does, when in reality, everybody in the world needs a teacher. Everybody in the world has had a teacher, but teachers really don't feel valued because of all the things that go on and happen to teachers.
So do you think that there's an issue with leadership within DPS, and is this something that's very obvious to you when you walk through the hallways at school, or is this something that's really like underlying and you just know that there's something not right coming from the top?
To like actually pinpoint like one specific person or like one specific thing for the causes of all these problems, that's something that's very hard to do, because like I said earlier, like it's just so many things going wrong within just the education system as a whole. Like, we can't pinpoint one person or one thing for the demise of urban education. But yeah, like that's just tough. Like, you just can't say like it's a problem with school leadership, because somebody had to make the choice, and like a choice had to be made, whether it was going to be a good choice or a bad choice. Something had to be made to make sure that these kids are learning, and 9 times out of 10, nobody really knows how to fix it. Like, people are just going day by day just to say, oh, well, maybe this will work. Oh, maybe this will work. But what we don't realize is, like, we're putting these kids through a experiment, and like, we're not giving them the skills that they need to succeed in life, because we're using them as test dummies in these classrooms that's overpacked with teachers who aren't qualified within schools with low resources. So it's just like problem after problem after problem that just end up in this whole big catastrophe. So it's kind of hard just to pinpoint like one main reason to why urban education is so messed up.
I have a question. First of all, awesome answers, both of you. But Parrish, I have a question for you. How much money? I've interviewed some teachers here in Georgia about how much money they come out of pocket per school year. And these are schools that are progressive, that are innovative, that are doing well, and these teachers are still coming out of pocket for supplies, for activities, for whatever else. So I can only imagine, how much have you come out of pocket for?
Listen, like, you probably just don't even want to know. Like, so I would say just throughout from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year, it's got to be at least like 500 or more just spent on school supplies because pencils, I lose pencils daily. Like every day I'm opening up a new pack of pencils. Every day I got to make sure that this kid got a new notebook, or like this kid got a book bag, or this kid has a piece of paper or a pair of scissors. Like every day, like somebody needs something. So even if I think like, okay, I'm gonna spend this much money at the beginning of the school year and not spend anywhere else on school supplies, come October, November, December, all of those things that I had at the beginning of the school year, those things are gone because we use them all. Like I don't know like what students do with pencils, but I know I opened up a pack of pencils on Monday. I had 24. On Tuesday, I had 17. On Wednesday, I had 11. And then by Friday, I had no pencils at all. So I don't know like what happens, but the supplies, they just go, and we just have to keep refilling those supplies because some people are fortunate enough to teach at schools who like offer supplies for teachers. Some teachers don't teach at those type of schools. And even if you do teach at a school that gives you supplies for the students, you're going to reach your max at a certain point and you're not going to be able to get anything else. You're going to have to, fund those things through your own ways or whatever. So what I've done lately, I don't know if like teachers know about this or like other people know about this, but there's a website called Donors Choose, where a teacher can set up like a school funding project for whatever things that they might need for their classroom. You can choose books, school supplies, furniture, technology, anything. You just write a story about why you need these and why it will benefit your students, and then the site, it will post it, and it reaches out to people who would like to donate to your classroom. And sometimes those donations are matched by the company, and once the project is funded, those things that you selected for your class, they're actually sent to the school. So that has saved me a lot of money. But before I did that, like I was coming out of pocket like every week buying stuff, and not even just buying school supplies, but like I have to buy like shirts or like socks or like soap because kids, they don't come to school with these type of things. And in urban education, in certain areas, you might have a population of students who don't necessarily wash up every day, or like don't have lotion, or don't have like toothpaste, and you have to give those kids those things because nobody wants to learn next to a student who doesn't smell good. Nobody wants to learn next to a student who has on a dirty shirt. So you have to make sure that your classroom is set up in a way to where everybody is in the correct situation to learn. So not only am I spending money on school supplies, I got to make sure that my boy over here got clean socks on. I got to make sure that my girl over here, she got a clean shirt, because that all those things work together to make sure that the child is being educated.
Wow.
I'm like speechless. I don't even know what to say. Like, you're more than just an educator. It's like, in a sense, you're a parent too. Like, these kids become your children, and you're responsible for taking care of them, even though it's, just for 8 hours a day or 8 or 9 hours. It's still like such a commitment, even a financial commitment. So we're going to take a short 30-second break, and then we're going to start part 2. And then I know Jazz and Bree said they have some more questions. So we're going to start that 30-second break, and we will be ready. So if you need to get some water, use the bathroom or anything,